Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. If folks are getting coffee and things and in the lobby by the front doors, can you please start making your way in? I'm really, really happy to see y'all. If I walk by you and I don't hug you, don't take it personal, please. But I am happy to see y'all. I want all the hugs. I promise. The introvert in me doesn't, but the love in me does. All right, y'all. First of all, good morning again. Welcome to the first full day of HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy. And with that, I'm going to acknowledge again what we acknowledged last night, that all of you have taken time away from busy schedules, from families, from, as Malcolm said, making money, spending money, to be here with us, and truly, truly do appreciate it, and we don't take it lightly. Also, happy Pride Month. So we kicked off last night with a very long welcome program. Thank y'all for sitting through that. It was a lot of information that we just needed to reiterate as things have changed in real time every second. So with that, also just want to flag that we told folks that we'd have shirts for sale in order for you to get your shirt for the group photo this afternoon. We had to pack up all the shirts, one, to transition the room into the hospitality room, but then the hospitality room had a little oopsie poopsie happening. I'll just say that little accident. I'm sorry. I know it wasn't little. So yeah, sorry. I know it wasn't little. It was just a lot to deal with. So I'm just trying to get past it because it was a lot. So we have not identified another place to sell the shirts. And my co-director is sleeping as she needs to. She's sleeping in. So I drew the short straw, so I'm up. So bear with us while we try to find a way for you all to get your shirts in time for picture. More than likely, it'll be a lunch situation that'll happen really fast. So once again, pay attention to Hoover because we will announce it on Hoover where we are with the shirts. Does everyone understand? Cool, 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 cool. All right. So without further ado, because y'all did not come to hear me, and I don't want to be up here talking. We always ground HIV is Not a Crime Training Academy, especially for our first timers, in the folks that we're fighting for. You know, while we're in our state coalitions and we're waiting for laws to change, we're building coalitions and developing strategies and pleading our humanity with legislators and other stakeholders that can support our movement, there are people who are literally system impacted, that are serving time, that are being threatened by law enforcement, are living in fear every day, which is most of us. But then we have folks who've actually been behind bars, and we want to hear from them today. And we always ground HIV is not a crime with those individuals. You might recognize some friendly faces up here. So without further ado, I'm going to let them introduce themselves because they have powerful voices and I want them to have all their time. So without further ado, give a lot of love, and I mean get up if you can, and give a round of applause to Robert Suttle.
Thank you. All right. All right. Whew. Thank you, Kamaria. Yes, praise him. Yes. Uh, it is really good to be here this morning at another HINAC, HINAC6. Yes. I stand here when I think back, yeah. As I stand here, I think back to 2014 when we first had HINAC and just the experience of how we was bringing this together. And then it really, it wasn't the first time that people who have been impacted by HIV criminalization came together. There have been some other events that have happened prior, leading up to our first HINAC. But that first HINAC was special because it was the first time that we, as people who've been impacted, to be in at a conference or a training session that is specifically about the issue that we've experienced. And so if you don't know, this particular conference is different than all the other HIV conferences because it specifically focuses on HIV criminalization. And so we've had many panels of survivors to try to Many of you may know their stories already, and then we try to also share perhaps what their experiences are beyond the courtroom, beyond the prosecution, or beyond the incarceration. And so we're continuing to go in that way, and we're going to hear more of that today. But this year is special because many of you know that Carrie Thomas is here. And this is Carrie's, it's not Carrie's first HINAC, but his first HINAC where Carrie has been here in person. And we're so happy. We're so happy that Carrie is able to be here and to participate with us versus having to call in and you hear his voice over the phone. So this is amazing how change can happen. We have to be patient and wait on it and realize that it doesn't sometimes don't always come as fast as we would like it to come. And so, and also it is a testament to the fact that if we keep at it, this can happen. Someone that's on the inside could actually now be on the outside and here with us in this moment. And so with that, Carrie's going to, I'm here to support Carrie, and he's going to be leading us today in some of this discussion here with our panelists. And so I hope that you will give Carrie and the rest of us just as much as attention and support as you've given me and our other survivors. There are other survivors here in the audience. Sanjay Johnson. Y'all know Sanjay, yeah? And there's also Jerry Merithu from Michigan. Repeat that again. All right. All right. Any other? Wow. And that's a blessing to be able to be alive to even say that, you know, in today. So, well, we would definitely have future panels. So I would take you up on that, Miss Billy. You be ready now.
Yeah, be careful what you ask for.
I know you will. All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. All right. We have another. Any other? Any other survivors? Yes. Thank you. Who else? Philadelphia. All right. Yes. Okay, I'm sorry. No, survivors of criminalization or okay, got it. All right. Any others? Yes. Michelle Anderson.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Wow.
Yes.
So this makes it even more special because there's lots of us in the audience, whether we're on the panel or not. So yeah, this is a moment for me. I mean, I knew people were here. There are people's stories I have not heard yet, but I know that they may have shared their stories in other ways. And so I am curious and want to know what those stories are so that we can find ways to incorporate them into our future HINACs and future panels with survivors, because it is important to know that we are here, we exist, because most times we are meant to be silenced and meant to be erased for many reasons. And there is power when we speak out and we acknowledge ourselves and we acknowledge others who have had this experience, or people just who are living with HIV, and even those that are their friends and family that are impacted. So this is important for us to open our mouths and speak it. Speak it. There's a power to that, and it also can be a strategy. And so I'm going to stop talking because we're going to go into that. We're going to take a moment to recognize some other people that should be recognized here. And so I'm going to transition over to Carrie.
Do I need to get a little bit closer to the mic?
Yes.
How's this right here pretty good? That's pretty good right there. Huh? I can speak up a little bit. So I want to take a moment. Everybody just breathe a little bit. To think about for a moment the resilience of those who are still behind bars. People currently incarcerated under HIV criminalization statutes. These individuals, for us and for me, are not forgotten. They are still part of this movement. It's their courage, their endurance, their humanity that deserve to be recognized. We choose to call that the roster of resilience. These are the folks that should have the opportunity to sit right where I'm sitting right now. These are names of folks, or not simply names of folks. It's not simply that they're in the newspaper, that they're on the court docket. These are actual lives. Lives that continue to matter. Lives that call us to keep in mind while we're at this event, while we're at this academy, that every workshop I go to, the way that we organize. There's another Carrie Thomas that is currently in that situation. I was thinking on the way over here today, then we were just talking about that before we all sat down, that potentially, because there's these, and probably likely, because these laws are still on the books, there's someone right now getting them bracelets put on, being told to put your hands on the wall. Should we give them their own space, their own cell? Right this minute, who's being humiliated. This conference, and we're going to talk about the other side of that, but I definitely want to take a moment to think in our minds a roster of resilience. We're going to have each panelist to speak for those who don't have the opportunity to be here, and I'll model that. I'm Carrie. I am a criminalization survivor. And I'm here because Wayne in Ohio can't be. He's serving 60 years.
I am Monique. I am a survivor. I wanted to say, you can thrive after HIV criminalization. That did not stop me. I am happily married, and I'm gonna tell all of you, whether you've been dealing with this or not, you can do whatever your mind is set to do. Don't let this diagnose, stop us from living. Because today I am living. I am thriving. I'm a grandmother. I'm a mother. I am married. I'm happy. That did not stop me. It did not stop me. It won't stop you. Continue to live, continue to live, continue to move forward. Do not allow this diagnosis to stop any of you, whether you had been criminalized or not. You can still live beyond the diagnosis.
Hi, I'm LaShonda Salinas. I I am am a survivor of HIV criminalization. I am from Tennessee. I'm gonna model behind Monique. I am happily engaged. Just got engaged last month. So just because you are HIV positive, that doesn't stop you from having a healthy relationship. Okay, you can still have kids, which I'm trying to. But just be happy in everything you do. Don't let all of this stop you. At one point in time, it did stop me. I did get depressed and wanted to kill myself. But looking at all these people sitting up here, especially Robert, he saved me in a time where I was depressed. And we'll get into that later. But I'll pass it to you, darling.
My name is Robert. My name is Robert Smith. I'm a HIV criminalization survivor. And they're right. I mean, it's been hard. It's a hard road to try to that they paved to try to walk, but I'm walking it. And um, I have a daughter.
Switch up.
I have a daughter that's 33 years old. My only daughter. I've been living with HIV 35 years. Uh, uh, my daughter have not been in my life. You know, for when I left her, she was 3 years old. My daughter is now living with me uh, as of last Saturday, and she knows everything that's going on with Dad, and she's happy, and I'm happy, and that's why I gotta survive this, and that's why I'm gonna fight this, because there are others that's locked behind bars that have family, that has daughters and that has sons, and they need each other. I know because I needed my daughter needed me, and that's why I'm here.
My name's Kelly Bean, and I'm an HIV criminalization survivor. And they're all right. We've got to be here to fight for this because there's so many that are in prison right now, and there's others that can still go to prison for this. And that's why I'm here, because I know people that have been in, and we just got to fight this. We can't have people going back.
Thank you. So what we're thinking today, and I wanted to title this, or we wanted to title this, Returning, Reclaiming, and Reimagining. Meaning that returning, this is a reentry plenary. And that's just part of the story, the getting out part. Then it's about reclaiming. What are we doing now? And then it's like the part I like the most is the reimagining. And as you heard everyone talk about, we can imagine relationships. We can imagine connecting with family, which to me is still a type of relationship. We can talk about reimagining our mental health, all of that. And that's what we wanted to do, open this up today. We're not talking about simply the paperwork. I don't know how many people have been justice impacted. We're not talking about the paperwork we sign, the conditions of our parole, or the long list of programs that we have to attend. Sometimes, and I don't know if we'll touch on it, some of us have been impacted also by the sex offender registry, all those things. We're not necessarily talking about that today, specifically to that today. But what we are talking about and what it really means to return to the world after surviving incarceration. And what it means to rebuild our lives when you're past, speaking for myself, your health status, your humanity have all been weaponized against you. So this, in that sense, is a celebration of not only what we've had, but all those victories we had as well, and the victories that we hope to have moving forward. Reentry for me is about relationships, end of the day, not simply romantic ones. Because I want to broaden for this discussion what it means to be in relationships. Maybe it's a relationship with an employer who might look at at my status or my charge and consider I'm not a risk to hire. How do we overcome that? Perhaps it's a relationship with a landlord or a housing program, that they might find ways around not giving us an opportunity to live in that space. Maybe it's a relationship with our family. I call it the new car smell. When you first get out, everything's great. You're parking it way in the back of the parking lot so no one else will scratch it. That kind of relationship that you first get out. But then life starts lifing, and some of those old concerns start to raise their head a little bit. It's like, oh yeah, it was cool, but I remember 15 years ago, Carrie, I didn't like you. You were the pain in my backside. That's part of reentry as well. It's not the end of the story. For someone like me who's still currently under supervision, in my mindset, yes, being able to be here, as Robert talked about for the first time, is huge. But I want folks to don't get it twisted. I'm still incarcerated. They just changed where I can lay my head at night. So, and for all of us in those situations, one way or another, that is still part of the reentry process. So I'm going to just simply ask that we're going to open up a discussion, have a few areas that we're talking about. And matter of fact, we'll just start off with community, and since we hit on the family and relationships a little bit, and being married a little bit. Congratulations. I'll ask with you, what is it like reconnecting? What was it like reconnecting with your family, your friends, and your old community at first?
What it was like reconnecting, don't get me wrong, I had moments where I just was like, I was not incarcerated like everyone else. But when I look at it and I listen to their stories, like Carrie, Robert, LaShonda, it breaks my heart because I look at it like it could have been me. I was looking at 8 to 12 years, and I'm just like, what if I was in that situation? I would have lost my children. In my DD 214, it do say serious offense. But I've been blessed that I have not had any trouble ever since. But the mental side, I still go through, I'm married right now, but I still, have that what if. In my mind, I'm happy, but I'm like, what if? What if something goes wrong and my spouse do something and say something or whatever? That's how these laws are for us. There's times where, even after the military experience, even after I was charged or whatever, I still was, battling in my mind. I was broken. I was hurt. I was just like, God, why is this going on? I'm not doing anything. I didn't mean to do nothing to this. They got me feeling like, I'm this just, horrible person. Yes, it's been years. But today, right now, I still, in my mind, even at this conference, I still think on those things, on what could have happened. When I listen to all their stories, I still put my own self in their story. Like, what if? Monique, what if? I was the one behind bars, lost my children. I also adopted 2 girls. And even that, I was so afraid to tell my status. I was like, oh, I really want to adopt, but if I tell them my status, if they look me up and they find out this and that, what if? So even though I move forward, even though I have moved forward, in my mind, I'm still, I still have those what if. What if they look me up? So even though, we've moved on in our lives, we still battle things in ourselves. It's a mental thing for me. I don't know about anybody else. I still think, oh my God. There are times where there's times where I'm in my bed and the tears begin to come down my face. The tears come to my face because I sit here and I'm like, God, sometimes when I think about their stories, I'm just like, wow. I'm blessed. I have my family. But you all, it's good that I always say this every time I come to these conferences. It's so good that we all are coming together. We can't sit in judgment. We don't know what the next person's been through. You don't know what they've been through. We can't sit here and judge anybody. Just because I'm married, just because you guys see a smile on my face, I still go through things. I still go through taking the meds, worrying about what somebody gonna say when thank God that's not happening, but I still worry when I go to the store, when I have my children, when I have my grands. I still have those things. Don't get it twisted. Do not get it twisted. I still go through. Being an HIV criminalization survivor, I still have my moments. There are still moments where I am broken. There are still moments I'm like, what if this, it just all of a sudden, boom. Like I said, I'm married now. What if my spouse, decides to flip on me and it happens all over again? So I know I'm not the only one. Even though I am a survivor, I still think like that. I'm happy, but I still think like, God, protect me. Be with me. Do not allow me to go through anything that I went through years ago, because it is broken, but I am happy. But you can move forward. Even though you are a survivor, you've been through things, you can move forward. Like I said at the beginning, you can. There is a life after this. There is life. You do not have to be stuck. You do not have to be feeling like walking with your head down, feeling like you're this and that. Just like I said in the video, those who have watched it, they make us feel like we are monsters. They make us feel like, we did this and we did that. But there is life after this diagnosis. You can live. You can live. You can be happy. You can have children. You could be married. You can run for office. That don't stop nothing. So being in a relationship I'm happy. It's a wonderful feeling. Do not allow your diagnosis to stop any of you. I don't care who you are. Yes, we're going to go through. You're going to go through. But don't allow it to stop you. Y'all, we got this. We all got this. We got this together. We're going to fight till the end. Like I always say, we're going to fight until these laws get changed.
That's a lot to unpack. Thank you. Like, so many brothers, you ever, from time to time, and I'm going to bring up something that happened just the other day with another staff, a serial staff member. But little things pop up after you've been done doing a little bit of time. What really stood out to me when you're talking about holding their head up, what you must do, do you ever feel like you got to have your head on a swivel too? You know what I'm talking about. Got to have that head on a swivel. Inside is because someone might crack you in the peanut. Come from behind you, have that head on a swivel. In the community, oftentimes the one I'm looking out for might be the housing department. It might be your employer. That's the way that you perfectly talked about. So I'm gonna ask you if you can answer this question. What was you talked about your daughter a little bit. Tell us about when you first got out. What was some of the biggest challenges that, not just a challenge, but that you overcame the first 6 months or so?
When I first got out, and of course, when I first went in, I was actually really ignorant to, you know, the consequences of the criminalization law. And had I had known, I wouldn't even be sitting here today. Had I had known, because I would have fought it all the way to the end. Because according to my public pretender, he didn't give me all the information. He partially he said if I pled guilty to it, because I had pled not guilty, because it was a lie. He said if I pled guilty to it, that they'll give me 6 months, because him and the DA went to the side and whispered. They'll give me 6 months in running, because I was on parole. I had violated my after being arrested for it, they had violated my parole, and I had 6 months left on that. And so he said they're running concurrent with that 6 months. He said, "Man, you'll be out on the street in 6 months." And of course, I mean, from a person, because I've actually, I've been behind those walls, 25 years plus, not all in one setting, but, here and there. So 6 months, sound like, I could do that on my head, you know what I mean? And so I took it. But what he didn't say was, but upon your release, you're going to be considered a SO. You're going to have 15 years of registration. I mean, you're going to have to find you somewhere to live, somewhere where you're welcome in the community. It's going to be hard to find employment, because nobody wants to hire a sex offender. He didn't tell me those things. So when I got out and I faced these things that he didn't tell me, man, I actually really thought it was over for me. So it was hard. It was hard. It's where I live right now. It's an apartment complex, and everybody that lives in this apartment complex are sex offenders. I mean, rapists. I mean, child molesters. When I walk in, and everybody in the neighborhood knows what this apartment complex, who's housed there. And so when I walk out on the street, just to go to the store or something, and you see people standing in the yard looking across the street, to them, I'm a rapist. To them, I'm a child molester. Into, like say, like he was talking about, Carrie, about, your head on the, I mean, I try to hold my head up high, but it's hard, man, when there's whispers and there's finger pointing, and that's and this law did this law that's supposed to be protecting. I mean, how does it go? protect and serve. Man, it's like, I mean, what did I do? You know, this law says, I mean, the song Michael Jackson wrote, I mean, all it really matters is they don't give a damn about us. And that's what that law says. And so I got to give a damn about myself. And give a damn about those who are like myself. So together, all of us caring about ourselves together, we can fight this thing, and I think we can make some changes. And that's why I'm here. I'm here for the fight to the end. I mean, I give out before I give up on this. And out of all of this, one, like I say, a great highlight. This big for me. You may not understand this about my daughter, but for me, that's a big thing to have her. That make me want to swing harder, you know, for my daughter, because she stands behind me, she knows about me, and she still loves me. That's my little baby. Thank you.
Here, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hard questions, or y'all just putting a Band-Aid on your crime? Because you, at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, there's a reason. Some people incarcerated are innocent, but most people. So I'm just saying this to say, what I'm hearing
Okay.
from you.
You okay if I put this right here? You okay if I put my hand right here? So, can I, Robert? So, if I understand the context of the question correctly, what I'm hearing you're saying is that we're not going deep enough on maybe the prison experience, or what this intent is to talk about. We're talking about reentry, and this training academy. What's so powerful about what Robert just talked about is that HIV is not a crime. And so to be put in a housing, and if I could use your example, and so to be required to live around folks that have nothing to do with you, or I have to go live in that box, I hope folks understand the decision would be to get on the streets. And I can't speak for everybody, and I'm speaking for myself. I took the same decision because I'm much better to my family and my grandkids if I'm on the streets than I am inside working for 40 cents an hour. What criminalization does, it challenges your pride. It challenges your faith. It challenges all the assumptions I might want to make on who I should live by, who is guilty of a crime. But at some point, and I think this conference and this training academy does a great job of breaking that down, HIV ain't a crime. It's irrelevant. We're not locking up diabetics, right? We're not locking up people with what is it, halitosis, something like that. You know what I'm saying? Because there's some people with some, you know what I'm saying? But what they do, they single this out. And this one, Robert, I'm going to pass it just one sec. One thing I want to really be crystal clear on. If we look at the ripple effect of this statute, the fear behind it, I can relate. What if? What if I'm at a barber and he decides, I cut your hair, I could be. And it's not that even you would get convicted. It's having to go through that whole process of arrest again, an assumption that you did it again, right? So what's so important to me is that we focus on is that anyone who's currently living with HIV, this statute is dangerous because at any moment, y'all could be right here over nothing. So I said a lot, Billy, and I definitely appreciate the questions. And yes, we're going to open it up to questions. I definitely appreciate the question because it highlights a big important issue for me. Is that how do we balance that too? How do we stay supportive, right? At the same time, we're not denying that there's some stuff that's going on. This conference again is unique because it gives a chance to really center on HIV.
And I would just want to add that this is big for people like Robert Smith. Robert is from my hometown of Shreveport. I went through this experience in 2008. Robert has experienced this prior to this movement of decriminalizing HIV. This is his first time to be able to be in this type of setting, to be able to share. So this is giving him a voice now because he didn't have a voice when this happened. He didn't have that. And for me to learn that about him, and although we share the same first name, I just thought that was kind of interesting. And I'm glad that we have this, what we have now, so that someone like him, based on who have experienced this prior to now, and even people who will experience this today, they have a place to come to, and it's here with this community of people who believe that HIV criminalization is an injustice into our community for all people living and aging with HIV. And so this is a powerful moment for Robert to be here and any others here that are sharing their experience for the first time in this setting. So I ask that you support them, support this moment, because the goal is not for us to be able to do this, that we be so shamed, so embarrassed that we wouldn't even open our mouths to speak. And I'm glad that, Robert, you're having the chance to do that now.
100%, Robert. And I want to take a moment to honor, the courage it takes just to put it out there, and it's also healing. It is. I have found it healing. I want to speak for everyone. Where Robert talks about, I was real, very blessed and fortunate. Robert touched on how I was able to participate in the HINAC while I was inside, and which was an amazing. I say it's a God thing, not a me thing, But I also understand that's unique. That's why this is so important to give people. There's a lot of things you wanted to say while you're inside. You know what I'm saying, Robert? So I appreciate that, and I love you for that, for sure. So I wanted to ask Kelly if you could comment a little bit, because you've had a little bit of experience if you've moved through to get to the other side. Because I understand you're not on paper anymore. Yeah, so that is when we talk about the hope that we can have. I wanted to touch on that a little bit. So what did that feel like when you finally were off that paper? And what I mean by everyone knows what on paper is. I ain't gonna have to explain it,
When I got out in 2018, they automatically gave me 2 years paper. I had to do meetings every week, 5 meetings a week. I had to report on that. I got off papers a year early, and they actually waived all of my fines. I had like $25,000 in fines plus court cost, and they waived all of that. It was relief because I could not afford any of it. I was back on Social Security, so it was a relief being off a year early, no more meetings. I was living in a sober living house, so I didn't have to report all the meetings to the courts, but I still had to report to the sober living house. But I chose to go back there because I knew I didn't want to get back on the drugs that I was on when I went into prison. So 5 years in prison, no more drugs, no more meetings for the courts, and no more papers after 1 year.
in a roundabout way, we've heard folks talk about, we talked about the physical part of it and, the housing part and all the things externally that goes on with us. So LaShawn, I want to talk to you about, again, this is an opportunity for us just to share a little bit with folks, right? I say you can share as little or as much, this is not, it's not a guideline for that. But I'm hoping that you're comfortable enough to be willing to share that the mental health's a big thing. We talk a lot about, are we, even anyone who's living with HIV or getting older like myself, a lot of other things start aching and all that stuff. And in 2 seconds, they can say, oh yeah, you might want to work on that arthritis carrier. Or, in a few minutes, your blood pressure a little bit high. But we have to put so much effort into getting the help we need with mental health. That's oftentimes to the wayside or forgotten, if mentioned at all. So the courage that you displayed publicly, to be able to work through that, I wonder if you could tell us about that process and how you got to the other side.
17 years ago when I did get on the sex offender registry, as Robert talked about, they put you just in this class of people. You're a sex offender and you've got to abide by their rules. The part that stuck out to me the most was I can't be around my family. I can't take my cousins to daycare or to school or to the park or anything. And that hurt me the most because my family, we are so close knit. It's like we're all brothers and sisters. So that put me in a depression state. And I went into being a hermit. I didn't go anywhere. I didn't even go to church. And that was the part that hurt me the most because every Sunday since I was about 13, I was in church, I was involved, I was in the choir, I was the secretary. That hurt me the most, and it put me in a depression state where I almost committed suicide. I was very, very close. I had the bottle of pills in my hand. I had the knife in my hand. And I was this far from putting it to my throat and just letting everything go because I thought I would be better off dead than not being around my family. But it took talking to my pastor just 30 minutes and talking to my sister, who is my biggest supporter in all of this. It was my mother until she passed away 10 years ago. But after that, it was my sister. And she had told me one thing. And I know a lot of y'all know me by LaShonda, but my family and everybody else, I go by Tootie. And she told me, she said, Tootie, you are stronger than you look. Look what you have been through. How can you go to jail and come out smiling? And you've been through this. You're saying, the gentleman is saying you did a crime that you did not commit. You survived all of that. And she's like, let's go into a moment of prayer. And it was like at that moment, everything, it just lifted. I didn't have anything on my shoulders anymore. And it took me going to a psychiatrist as well. And being with my family and speaking to my psychiatrist, I'm able, as Monique say, I'm able to do what I want to do. And being on the sex offender registry, there wasn't a lot that you could do. Couldn't be around any children's, no Thanksgivings, no Christmases, and that hurt me the most. Thanksgiving and Christmas, as most family, y'all do it up. You got that food. You hungry, you ready to eat. And that's what I was ready to do, but I couldn't do it. It's not the same as, my family would bring me a plate of food, but it's not the thing of sitting there around the table with your family, sharing old school stories, listening to music, dancing. That's where it's all at. But for 17 years, I couldn't do that. So for 17 Thanksgivings, 17 Christmases, 17 birthdays, it was in my house, in my bed, because I was so depressed. I didn't want to live because what is living when you can't do nothing? It's nothing. But thank God, with the help of my sister, my pastor, and my friends, I'm surviving. And when I came off of the sex offender registry in 2023, that's when I was reborn again. Thank you. But I always say my birthday is July 22nd, but my physical birthday is July 7th, 2023. When I came off of the sex offender registry, I was able to live again.
I'm sorry, these are just moments for me. If you remember HINAC 2023, LaShonda was excited about a potential job opportunity, and by the end of the conference, she was upset because I think you had got word that.
Because when they looked at my background, the sex offender was still on there. And I was this close from having that job.
So here we are, the next HINAC. And I mean, shortly thereafter, the opportunity came to be off the registry to begin that process. And so in an instant, she was feeling down and disappointed, but in an instant, her life was able to change because of work, being done there in the state and on the ground. And so it's a testament that, change can happen and our lives can hopefully be improved as a result.
And that's interesting. That's exactly where I was going to go, Robert, and kind of to bring it around just a little bit. That's why everybody in these seats is so important right here at HINAC. The support that I can speak for myself, and you could agree, because everyone of us has been touched by HINAC or this movement in one way or another. Isolation is a big part of it. To be able to have folks that are willing to come, in this case, to Raleigh, to say hello, to give the hug, to have that sense of community. I look at it this way. I call it the big ticket items. There's some folks that I'm looking out the room right now that are some amazing organizers, some amazing advocates, that are great lawyers, great writers, all those type of things. I choose to call those big ticket items. Rest of us, we're doing the day-to-day grind. Swinging your feet out of bed, standing up, making breakfast for the kids, doing all those little things until the laws get changed. What about the day-to-day grind? That's what HINAC means to me. Folks are taking time out of their day because it's all of us. Never a me thing, never a Carrie thing. It's not a me thing, it's a we thing. All the things that have allowed us to keep moving one more step, the next step. Through all the difficult times, through the dirty looks when you're going to coming out of your own place to live, quality housing. I've been out for coming up on 2 years, and being involved in this movement and listening here, got a little bit from Robert, a little getting from the folks at Ciro, all that stuff. And it's interesting to me is that what kept coming around is the quality of life, quality of life, quality of life. All those things keep coming up. And I'm like, what's that quality of life? I just got released. I'm pretty happy. This is pretty good. But when you break it down, like you're saying, the small print, that's what Decrim is about. Decrim's about the small print, you know, not just simply the what if and the how comes. That little bitty small print, that's HINAC. That's you all in the seats, doing all the little work. May not seem like it. I'm so appreciative. You know, I'd say all over and over again, HINAC saved my life. You know, I had an opportunity, the first HINAC, Ciro sent me a little picture of the group photo. I hope everyone does get in the group photo, for sure, when we had a chance to do that. And I'll probably break down when I say this a little bit. I'll just say this, because it'll get too much. But when I was sent that photo, I'd carry that around with me everywhere I went. In those times, I was able to look at y'all, right? Get one more step. That was just enough. So to think that you don't make a difference, you do. You made a difference for Carrie Thomas, I'll tell you that. You know, those long days, you know, of lockdowns, you know what I'm saying? I could look over when you're tired of watching the rerun again. I don't watch Law and Order, you know, it's on every channel 24/7. But I could look over on my locker and I can see that HINAC group photo. That got me out of bed. Because I figured, these people don't even know me and they're fighting for me. Who am I not to fight for myself? Don't get me going. That brings up a lot. You sure can. Mm. Yeah, that was a good day. I ain't gonna lie. It was sunny out, and let me answer it this way. I'm gonna give you the idea of what prison kind of looks like, at least the facility I was at. So there's this long, they call it a breezeway, only because it's hella windy. You know, wintertime in Boise, Idaho is rough. And so they don't give you a lot of clothing. So you're walking, got to tuck it up, get the lean on a little bit. And so this side is the only thing hidden by the wind. And so I got out on September 11th, 2023. So in that particular day, there's a lot of hustle and bustle. That's the main thoroughfare to get from A to B. And they have what they call yard movements, where it's the opportunity to get from A to B. And so it's really crowded on the breezeway most times. So I'm there for my release. I knew that the folks at Ciro, I think Robert touched on it. One thing I've learned about this movement, you got to be patient. If you're new to this and you think that all I got to do is put a little effort in, a couple months, maybe 6 year tops, you know, the law's going to be changed, we're all going to celebrate, that ain't going to happen. So 15 years almost to the day, it was beautiful and sunny out, and somehow the breezeway was empty. Nobody on it. And because I could see from my cell, the window looking out, there was, if I think back, there was the gun tower directly outside my window. And then you have the long breezeway. And on the way to the chow hall and recreation, all those type of things, is direction to get out. And I reflected back on, for 15 years I walked that, wondering, do I take the left to go to, you know, the chow hall work and all those things? Or I take a right to the visiting center and administration, and I'm going home. So when I was walking out those steps, and I was determined, I gave away all the stuff I had because I walked in with nothing. All I had was my Quran, some legal work, and that was it. Just strolling, butt naked, basically. I got teased inside. They say that I walk around butt naked with a beanie on. That's pretty much what I was doing. I was just out. And it was the the fastest, but the slowest and the smoothest walk of my life. And I'll tell you in reference to HINAC, the reason that was that way, I knew it y'all on the other side. I knew that Sean was outside that door. I knew that Tammy outside that door. Eric, Kevin, all of them came all across the country, were out that door. That's what this movement is. It's not about Carrie.
Did you get it expunged? How did it get removed? How do people futurely, talk with you guys to work through some steps that they may be dealing with virtually or in a space in another state? And what does that look like a little bit?
So we're going to give LaShonda specifically the opportunity to answer that. But I kind of want to set the playing field kind of even. Being HIV and having a relationship is not a sex crime. I'm just going to throw that out there. So even the concept that there needs to be individuals who are living with HIV on a sex offender registry is on its face improper, wrong. Okay? So when we talk about the specifics of the registration, let's frame it under that context that you shouldn't be there anyway. And before I pass, I want to say this. And what's interesting is as we go on to different workshops and stuff, a lot of states are doing the workaround where they're saying they're charging people as sex offenders. If they committed a sex crime, they're charging them for the sex crime, appropriately so. But if the person's living with HIV, they try to shape it to where that was part of the issue. That's why this is dangerous. And I think you can talk more about the specifics. Both of you can talk more about the registry itself.
When I got ready to come off of the registry, there were steps that I had to take. I had to register with the local TBI. So therefore, Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. And they tell you if you're requesting to come off, you can send an email or you can send a letter to them. I chose to do both because I was ready to come off. Governor Bill Lee in Tennessee, he signed the law on May 17th. Yes, May 17th. Me, being that I was ready to come off, I went and sent my information in on May 18th. The bill did not go into effect to July 1st. July 1st, I sent another letter and another email because I wanted to be not necessarily the first one to come off, but I wanted them to remember, it's time for me to come off. The law has been amended. This law is for all of the people that have been criminalized. It's time for us to come off because, as Carrie said, we're not supposed to be there. No. So, there are steps. After you email or send a letter to the agency that you are registered with, they have to take time to run your background and make sure that you have no other sex crimes on your record or pending. And if you do not, then they will send an email to where you register to let them know that you have been approved to come off. And a friend of mine that is also on the Elizabeth Taylor Foundation, um, I'll never forget the day she had called me and she had texted me, and I'm like, why in the world is this girl blowing up my phone? And I answered, and then she's like, have you looked at the sex offense registry? And I'm like, no, why would I do that? I'm on there. She said, well, I did some research and I can't find you anywhere. I'm like, girl, I know you lying, so stop playing. So my next step was I went and looked just to make sure. And true enough, I couldn't find myself. I'm like, well, Lord, it's a wonderful thing, correct. But did something happen to the page or something? Maybe, maybe this is the devil acting crazy. So I called the agency that I registered with and spoke to the sex offense department. And I told her, I says, okay, I'm looking at the registry, but I can't find myself. I said, so what did y'all do? She says, well, I'm here to tell you, and I have the email to prove it, that this letter come in July 7th of 2023, and it says you have been approved to come off of the sex offender registry. So me, I'm sitting up here calling everybody in the world. Y'all don't have to look at me no more. But just to be safe, I did go and get a copy of that email because I wanted it for myself to make sure that this was correct, first of all. And about 2 weeks later after that, I did get a letter from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation saying that they did approve me to come off of the registry. And I have both of those in a frame on my wall.
I think we had a couple questions.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming. I have so much love to pour into each one of you all. And welcome home. Welcome home. My question was specifically for more so like the background. I understand that you can come off of the registration list, which is an amazing thing. But I heard that you all stated that you were not able to get a job a couple of years back because it was still on your background. Is this something that can be pardoned, um, expunged, or anything like that for this thing to still not imprison you? You understand what I'm asking? Am I asking? Yeah, because apparently it's still following and it's still, holding those who are affected hostage. And criminalization for anyone who's not, who may be looking at this thing differently than what it's supposed to be, criminalization is harmful to those living with HIV. So yes, thank you.
It's a complex, it requires a complex response. My understanding, and I'm from Louisiana, and so maybe it's just the way Louisiana is, because many people ask about the expungement thing. Only certain offenses perhaps may be qualified, or a person may be eligible for expungement. I personally don't see this as one of them, but each state is different. At least in Louisiana, it wouldn't be something that I could get expunged. When people perhaps come off the registry, like that's great, but they still have the conviction, the felony conviction. And so, depending on what work is being done, maybe to address that law, that's why repealing laws is important, or perhaps reforming them, but the chances of being able to reform a law in the way that it goes back and like clears records of many people that have been harmed, that varies from state to state, and I think it can be a very complex process. So I just wanted to just make those 2 points, that it's not as just easy to do it. As I said before, many years ago, that it's so easy for them to find you and arrest you and lock you up, but it's something about when it's time to undo that, it's like, pulling teeth. It takes forever. It takes almost a lifetime to undo it, and I don't understand why that is the case. But yeah, so hopefully that's not a thorough answer, but it's enough to show people like, oh, so it's not just enough to be off the registry, which is in itself is great, but you still have the criminal conviction. And so the question is whether you, well, not whether you can live with it. You obviously are living with the conviction, but whether there is an opportunity for some type of relief is something that will have to be explored more.
So, can I go next? I have a question for Carrie. So you asked the panel about their about being on paper, but you didn't talk about being on paper. So my question for you is, how long are you going to be on paper, and what does being on paper look like for you right now?
Me personally? I try to be the most general as possible. You're gonna put me on the spot a little bit. Well, uh, my sentence was 30 years in prison, incarcerated. And so in the state that I'm from, which is Idaho, there isn't good time, none of that. It's day for day, whether or not you're behind in the facility or not. It's day for day. In order to get opportunity to come home in the Idaho system, I filed with the what's called a commutation, which basically modifies my sentence. The Parole Commission Idaho has the jurisdiction to change the whatever they want the sentence structure. So what they did, because I had the 30-year sentence, they went to cut it in half for the 15 years, and so by the statute, I still have 15. I've like 12 years left. However, we can ask for an early reduce to the sentence, and that's what I'm in the process of doing now. So the most they could have me do is about another dime, another decade. So.
I had went to register one time a few years back. I went for my because I have to register twice a year for the state and for the city in Shreveport, and I went to register one time, and there was this officer who was doing my registration, and he was like, like a newbie, and so as he was going over my paperwork, making sure, okay, you at this address, this your phone number, this your email, this your password. I mean, they just check everything about because they're looking for some way to violate you, to put them braces back on you. But and okay, so I was on 15 years registration because I was considered a tier 1 sex offender. There's different levels, and if you're tier 1, that means that upon your release, you're gonna be a 15 years doing that registration. If you're tier 2, you're doing it for 25 years, and if you're tier 3, that's a life sentence in registering. And so he said, you doing you on life registration, right? I'm like, what? He said, yeah, well, that's what they got here. You on life registration. I said, nah, man. I said, I'm a tier 1, man. I'm on 15 years. Well, I actually had to send to get that, get that looked at, and the Attorney General changed that back. But I'm what I'm thinking about is that, okay, so you so thorough in checking up on me, but you missed this, and I mean it's a catch 22. I mean it's all about the Benjamins. is all the money thing. But anyway, there's a clause uh, in the paperwork of sex offenders and registration, and it says that, and I just noticed it like about a year ago, a year and a half ago, and I'm reading back through the stuff, and it said that, it gives the tiers and how long you're on registration, like say 15, 25 life, whatever. It said, but if you do 10 years, if you're on a 15-year registration, you do 10 years without violating any of those little rules that they had in there, you can be off of it in 10 years. And I'm looking, and I'm in my 11th year, right? So I'm like, wait a minute, I can be off. So I called the lieutenant who was over the SO in Caddo Parish in Shreveport. And I said, Lieutenant, I'm reading here where I should be off this registration because I've done 10 years. And he said, oh yeah, you can get off of it, but you got to get a lawyer and go back to court. Okay, so I think about it. Okay, if I was on probation or parole and I had done my last day, I go in and I sign off on it, right? And I ain't on it no more. I mean, it's like I said, it's targeted at us, And so, by the grace of God and by thanks to LCCH and these, I am. I'll be back in court this year sometime. They pull strings, and I got some lawyers pro bono that's working on this case. But I'll be back in court this year sometime to have that registration lifted up off me. That's what I'm saying. Thank you.
And that's where I wanted to. I thought this is the one you broke. Okay, my bad. I misunderstood. Just one quick. That a little better in there. And so that's why I wanted like slight segue because we're running close toward the end of time. Just we're going right there in a second because I wanted to acknowledge how important the folks with questions are. Because none of that is possible to get through this without the help. And that's one of the things that every one of us recognize in this community and give the thumbs up to this community because the help is out there. One of the biggest important things for me to see at HINAC is how we do network, how we do find out, hey, I got a lawyer that may be able to help with this. You see that also those questions. I want to make that clear. That is why this is so important. Because we can't do it. I can't afford out of pocket a lawyer real quick, right? As much as I would want one. And the system counts on that from us to not be able to afford it. That's why we need the help of others. So I apologize. Go ahead with your question.
Can you hear me? I'm Brielle Gillis, PWN, Texas, Houston. And so I applaud each and every one of you all. I also was affected by that. I was incarcerated when I caught a charge for attention exposure to the AIDS virus in Louisiana for spitting on a guard during a ride. And I thank God that I was able to gain the knowledge that you all had to gain after. I gained it while I was in there, and I was able to get back in court while I was still incarcerated, and they reversed that charge and took it off because I looked it up, and I mean, spitting on somebody you can't pass it from spitting on somebody. And so I was able to find that out while I was in there. So, but I applaud each and every one of you all. And my God, 17 years, it broke me down. Like, I can't imagine going that long without not being able to see my family. But I applaud you for keeping strong. So, every one of y'all.
I think
Hello?
we have a little bit of a soft list going. And so after here, I think we're going to come way up front, correct,
Yep.
Robert? Right over this direction. Oh, wow.
Hi,
That's
I'm
right there.
Valerie Martin. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana. I have not been in working with the HIV field no longer than 1 year and a couple of months, but I have been an advocate because my mom has been living with the virus for 30 years. So before I say this, I want to applaud Miss Monique and everybody else along the panel, but the way you come out fierce and strong talking about this and standing up for it, that's exactly how I was with my mother, because I remember when she became advocate and she came out, right? And everyone put her in a box and everyone kept on saying she has that box, right? And my mom just wanted to do her job just to make sure no one ever contracted the virus or around her, right? But no one saw it like that. And so I was like, okay, I'm about to fight for my mother, right? And so when I hear you talking, I was like, wow, she sounds just like me. But I want to touch back on this person that was right there talking about what if a person that has the virus is going around giving it, right? I was just not too long ago in my hometown, and I was telling my coach mom who works um, in the hospital in Chicago, and I was like, hey, I'm going to this convention, this conference that HIV is not a crime. I said, because people are living long, healthy life with the virus and striving very longer. And I used the reference, and I hate having to put one against the other, but I said people are living longer than people that have cancer, right? Because when people think of cancer, they don't think like, oh, they want to stand behind it and be strong about it, right? And she said to me, I understand someone not getting in trouble or being criminalized for not knowing that they have the virus. But what about the people that does have the virus and they pass it on? And in my mind, I was like, I haven't been trained that long to sit up here and say all the right words that I should say. I just kept telling her that you can live a long, healthy life with the virus, whether you got it intentionally or unintentionally, right? But I wanted to touch back on this person that was saying that what about the people that has the virus and that is giving it? And I said to myself, I don't know what to say about it. So I'm asking you guys, what do you say to a person that comes and asks you, well, what about the people that's intentionally giving the virus to someone? Should they not be punished for that? So that's my question.
You want to hit that first, or I'll give the two
Yeah, I
pieces.
get a lot, and
Yeah.
I mean, even people within our own community say that, right? Those of us that are living with HIV, and I don't. The I'll just say this part first. The way the law is set up in this country, in this country, they don't care about how you might have contracted HIV. In fact, it, in some of these cases, uh, HIV may not have been transmitted, and yet you still face the consequences. But I want people to know it doesn't the law doesn't look at how someone may have contracted HIV to determine whether someone's story is greater or less than. Second, I want to say, why are we thinking like that? That's kind of an old way of thinking, that there are people living with a diagnosis and think that folks just intentionally want to do that. I think that if that is the case, then perhaps that person needs support. They don't necessarily need to be criminalized. They need support, and we need to know more about them to understand what that support means and what it looks like for them. Um, and that's what's not happening either. They're just looking at the diagnosis and automatically assuming that you're committing a crime. But people who, if someone is intentionally doing that, we would need to really examine that situation and really understand why that is the case. Because anyone that's living with HIV, most people want to disclose their status. Most people want to feel supported and to also offer and receive care. But if you're not able to get those things, then it puts you in a position where you may run the risk of transmitting HIV to someone, especially if you're not fully aware of how it's the real risk and routes of transmission of it. So it's a very complex question, but I don't understand. I understand that the mentality is that of someone like that is that it has not evolved enough to understand where we are today with the virus.
Just one second. And before, I want to center with this as well. And before, I know Duck, the answer to the comment here in a second. And practically, the numbers just don't show that. When people start saying that type of thing, before we get into where it's even close to an opinion, that's not what our data shows. That individual does not exist, right? So I always encourage when those conversations come out, let's get on the same playing field. Let's talk apples to apples, not just talk not to speak our fear into existence and our prejudice into existence and our stigma
but the perception
into
is
right.
That we are that person.
Right.
That's what I'm trying to get people
Exactly.
to see. That we're thinking about some other person, but the point is we're all that person.
Correct.
We're all looked
Correct.
at as that person.
Bingo.
We're not.
Bingo.
So I think I have the mic, and I'm gonna try to pass it back
Right over
around the
here.
folks. Right. So 2 things I want to say, and we just touched on it. This is not about transmission. This HIV criminalization laws is not about transmission. Nobody's transmitted HIV. It's about non-disclosure of HIV status. People are being accused of not telling their partner their HIV status. This is not about I transmitted HIV to somebody. In most cases, HIV has never been transmitted. Number 1, right? Number 2, for people who may, like you referred to, know their status and not protect their partners, there's something called restorative justice. And restorative justice is not for the person who contracted HIV. That's revenge. Restorative justice is for the person who doesn't have the information that they need to be able to navigate their lives with HIV and keep their sexual partners safe and healthy. Restorative justice means a person who's living with HIV needs some education around being safe and how to navigate their lives with HIV, and they're not getting that. So restorative justice is for that person or persons that you spoke about, right? It's not revenge, but they need something. There's something that they need. So they need, that part. And then my question was to you, Robert, and I don't want to re-traumatize you, but I remember you came to Pennsylvania one time, a long time ago, and the sheriff came to where you were staying to check out your papers or something. If you don't want to go into it, you don't have to. I'm going to pass the mic.
Yeah, I moved to Milford, Pennsylvania from Shreveport, and I was at AIDS Watch, actually, and my first AIDS Watch, and by the time I was getting ready to head back to Pennsylvania from DC, I was told that the police chief in the community, that small town, was going around with a flyer stating that I was an out-of-state offender moving in. And so it had to notify all the people in that small town, mostly white people, in that small town, that this black young man from Louisiana is living in your town, and you need to know that he's living with HIV and he, is on the sex offense registry. And so, so there's not many black people in Milford, and so if I was walking around, surely everyone would know that I am that guy. And so, that is one instance of what I've had to experience. That was kind of the first experience I had outside of Louisiana. Actually, we turned it into a teaching moment. We wrote columns and put it in the town paper about why I was there and everything. So it was a teaching moment, which we gladly take advantage of.
Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Kenesha Harris. I am from New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a formerly incarcerated trans woman, black trans woman. and living and thriving with HIV for almost 20 years. While I was incarcerated, I was actually I remember what Carrie said earlier about um dealing with the law and being in the position that y'all are in now. I was almost in that position because of the fact of, like I said, I live in a state where they are completely unkind to the LGBTQ plus community. And that, especially if they find out that you are HIV positive, it is 10 times worse. Because the fact that I was in a relationship while I was incarcerated. I'm not going to even lie and say that. And me and my partner we were having sex while we were in jail, and the guards got wind of what we were doing, and the facility knew that I was HIV positive, and they was going to charge me. They were literally was going to charge me for exposing my boyfriend with HIV. And mind you, at the time, I was in the middle of doing 6 months in solitary confinement. So thinking about how the HIV statute is in Louisiana, it is ridiculous. And knowing that the main thing, I wasn't worried about the jail time piece of it, because the fact that you're acceptable up to 20 years in prison, but because of that. It's the sex offender part that is that excuse my French, fucks with me. And I see all of you that are on this stage today, and I kept saying in the back of my mind, that could have been me. That could have been me. But I praise God and my higher power that I am not that person. And I commend y'all for having that voice, because of the fact that I know that I am a very loud and brash person, but something like this would have fucked me completely up. Like, completely. And it was bad enough as it is already. I was already incarcerated for a charge that I did not commit. A lot of my people who are from Louisiana know my story. A lot of my people who are from Louisiana know my story and what happened to me. And I was railroaded by the system. And I was almost railroaded by the Louisiana Department of Corrections. So I commend y'all for speaking on this, because of the fact that it scares me. It literally makes me walk on eggshells by me being HIV positive and trying to have a healthy sexual relationship with partners, and not going in the back of my mind being threatened that one day that I might be incarcerated for this charge again.
So we've got time for one, maybe. I think we're wrapping up at 11. Oh no. We're over here.
Robert. Robert. I want to apologize to you because I was totally confused. I thought, okay, I'm one of those people. That when being from California, when I hear sex offenders, I don't put that with criminalization of HIV. And I want to sincerely apologize to you. I do. From the bottom of my heart, I want to say, I hope you accept accept my apology. And it's more than just an apology. It's a sincere acknowledgement. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's an acknowledgement because I don't usually accept that I'm wrong. Ooh. But in all sincerity, my sincerest, deepest apology. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.
Your apology is accepted.
I'm sorry.
It's accepted.
From the question that was asked about, I'm Vanita, y'all. From the question that was asked about, what about the people who intentionally? Can y'all talk about the percentages of that? Because that is the rarity, and that's what gets exposed as we're all trying to give it to everybody else. In the cases of actual intention, not knowledge, but sticking a needle in a condom and all of that. Can y'all talk about that? Because that is a very small percentage of the cases that people transmit HIV. Do any of y'all have the numbers? Worldwide, HIV has some numbers about the small percentages of intent.
What we will do, because
Okay.
I know, and I'm going to encourage folks to, and I can't remember the exact workshop, but when we're going out for the rest of today and also tomorrow, and I'll try to get the specific of that workshop, and I'll put it on, ask for it to be put on Hoover, because that's the conversation we want to have. So I'm glad you asked the question. I'm glad you flagged that. And I think we actually have, they're going to run me out of here. Don't y'all going to get me fired. And we have one more, we have time for one more question. You've been waiting, I appreciate your patience.
And we're all still here, so you can ask us the question afterwards too.
Exactly. This is the evidence to action? Right, right.
Somebody. I need a Band-Aid. Okay, I got you. I'm a long-term ex-offender, 25 and 35 years. It was by the grace of God I stand before you. I honor each and every one of you because I remember my 30 and a wake-up. And I locked myself down so I wouldn't be released. I also remember being diagnosed in the 80s and not saying anything until the 2000s because I didn't need medication. I never got sick. Okay? I am Elder Reverend Antonietta Etienne, but I didn't find God in jail. I found it outside because I was a dual parolee at one point, and I found out that they were lying to me because I was I did federal time, and then I did New York State time. My feet never touched freedom ground, okay? Because I was part of a posse, a Jamaican posse, so I was on a hit squad. And the reason I never talked about my status, but I helped develop a program in New York State, in Bedford Hills, the ACE program, in Abion Correctional Facility, which I'm really proud of, the REACH program, and Taconic Correctional Facility, the CARE program. New York State sent me all over the place because number one, I spoke 7 different languages. Number 2, I was able to connect with the ladies. And number 3, understanding about HIV. And I honor each and every one of you because I know what you're going through. Yes, I do wonder about that because I'm also an immigrant. I'm a woman of color. I'm a lesbian. And that man that's not our president will try to deport me because of my stance. And I'm an advocate and an activist. PWN knows me very well. Okay? And they know that I advocate in more than one language. But today, I can stand here proud and say, I'm HIV positive from 1986. And I'm still hanging in there. And I've now started to take medication because I'm getting younger. I ain't saying I'm getting older. And I dyed my dreadlocks. But the thing about it is this. I don't care how you got to the camp. Once you get to the camp, it's about the change. A lot of our people don't change when they get to the camp. They endure and they keep on riding with what's going on. So, you know, when that wake up comes, they're not prepared. And Department of Corrections and no city and no state prepares us for release. They allegedly do a reentry program, but they do not. And know that today, this long-term ex-offender got 2 sets of IDs to go into the regular facilities and the federal facilities, not only in the United States, but internationally, to hear the words of an HIV-positive Caribbean woman and all what we have endured, all what my brethren and my sisters have endured while incarcerated. And the cemetery that we started in New York State for women, that their families did not want them because they were HIV positive. And the amount of women that we buried. And I think that's where Father God said, you know what, you can't go back to selling drugs because they're going to throw away the key or they're going to shoot you again. I've been shot 7 times and stabbed 4. So it's by the grace of God, Father God, that I stand before you. And know that if you ever need me, just ask for my number. I'm always working because I'm single. But watch it now. I'm single for a reason.
So I know, thank you for everything. And I think, and before we get, I think we literally have time for just, okay, and then I'm gonna work with you for this. I'm gonna give you both these 30 seconds.
Okay.
I know. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so as my name's Portia, by the way. So there's the exposure laws, and then there's the transmission laws. And for me, I feel like I just wanted to affirm, if you were criminalized for exposing someone for HIV, there's nothing for you to be accountable for. You didn't transmit the virus. But as far as that, going back to, oh, she's not there no more, the young lady's question, as someone who works with, like, I'm positive, and I also work with people who are newly diagnosed, and it's definitely a mental health issue. I feel like Miss Vanita said, it's a small percentage of people who are out there purposely transmitting the virus that I feel like the media and stuff like to highlight. That's not all of us. But I think those people have serious mental health issues. And like what I've seen from even working with sex offenders, a lot of the times, like the real sex offenders, people who have been sexually abused, or people who commit sexual or molest children, you see it a lot that typically when they were younger, that's what happened to them. And so for me, I feel like people who are purposely transmitting the virus, they're like in denial, like a really big, people, they're pissed off because that's what happened to them. And people highlight that, and they make it seem like that's everybody, and that's not everybody.
I appreciate that, but I strongly encourage us to go to your workshops.
Yes.
Because that's why you're here at this conference, at this training academy. And I want to emphasize training. Because it's so, this is what we're here. Kamara talked about it yesterday, that we get that opportunity. There may be some Band-Aids that need to be put on today. I might go grab me one and put it on there. You know, because there's a lot of things that have been said. And we're going to go one comment, then we're going to wrap this up. You got to be really quick. You got to trust me.
Yeah, I got it. Myra. Myra, Alabama. We have communicable disease laws, which if HIV is involved, there's a felony enhancement, you know. And I really do appreciate y'all for being here and everything. But we're finding that people are being charged in the prison system, biting, spitting. How do we support the most marginalized communities that are being affected by criminalization of HIV?
Excellent. Again, what I'm gonna hit on, that's our last question. I'm sorry. What I'm gonna re-emphasize a couple things. Thanks for being here. Thanks for your openness. Thanks for all your input. Let's get out the Band-Aids, because this is what HINAC is about for me. It's about having a safe space to have this conversation if it leads to getting the truth, if it leads to actual information. So leaving the opening, let's go out these next couple days and find out the answer to those questions.
Are y'all done?
Yes.
Can we give love. Please, can we give it up for our panel? I haven't been able to hear everything, but I have felt what's been happening in this space. That's why we didn't pack our program full of programs all day. This evening, you will have time to roundtable and have these conversations and dig deep into answering those questions and strategizing and getting clarification and sharing your own stories as you've been uplifted from this panel to do so. That is what HINAC is all about. And I'm so glad that y'all have been anchored to your seats and raising your hands and a little irritated with us that we have to cut you off. I'm just trying to help y'all get some food, that's all. And I got some quick announcements to make. So thank you all again so deeply for your lived experiences and sharing it, because people don't get to hear this. And thank y'all virtual folks for tuning in and paying attention to what's happening.